are the winners?
I ain't gonna say all men and women. I'm gonna say me and my niggas winning though. The niggas
Well, 10 dudes winning. Okay.
Like a motherfucker.
Let them tell it.
Yeah, we winning.
Yeah, let y'all tell it.
We don't know how to lose. We don't even take losses good. At nothing. I mean at nothing.
But anyway, y'all know what it for, women. We already know what it for.
What?
Okay. Nothing. What?
Exactly.
To be on stage.
Nothing.
To be on top.
Exactly. Nothing.
To be on top.
Fuck with a nigga out of 10 to.
Yes, I know I was wrong. I ain't have no business going off like that, but...
What?
I am sorry, y'all. Yes.
What?
No, huh? Yes, that's her. Let me see the phone, son.
No. Just want to be famous, I'm going to make him famous.
No.
Want to be famous, I'm going to make you famous. I do.
Yes.
I'm telling you I get on these bitches level.
No.
A young mother stares into a Facebook Live broadcast, trembling, forced to say sorry at gunpoint. Seconds later, a gunshot shatters the silence, and her life slips away, live on camera. Welcome to a story that merges social media drama with a terrifying real-life tragedy. A tale where a public Facebook feud, an explosive love triangle, and one man's violent rage collide in a single moment. This is the final day of 27-year-old Ranita Williams, a devoted mother of 3 whose life was cut short in the most public way possible. In this true crime documentary, we dive deep into Ranita's journey, from her humble beginnings to her role as a mother, an entrepreneur, and finally to the day her ex-boyfriend forced her into a horrifying last broadcast. We'll uncover disturbing details about the man behind the gun, Jonathan Robinson, a figure whose history of violence laid the groundwork for what would become a national headline. We'll also explore the role of the other woman, Sherika Taylor, whose presence turned an already volatile relationship into a nightmare. By the end, you'll have witnessed a tragic collapse of trust, love, and second chances. Keep watching to discover the events that led up to that fateful Facebook Live apology, the aftermath of the shocking murder, and how it could have been prevented. This is a story of jealousy, betrayal, and heartbreak, and it all unfolded in front of social media. Ranita Williams grew up in Shreveport, Louisiana, a city known for its lively culture, yet notoriously high crime rates. Although some communities flourish, certain areas of Shreveport have become flashpoints for gun violence and drug-related activity. Despite the environment around her, Ranita's loved ones recall a bright spirit who wanted more than what her local streets typically offered. Ranita was a mother of 3 children. She had them young, which meant she spent much of her early adulthood juggling late-night feedings, day jobs, and household responsibilities. Yet, she didn't let that stop her from dreaming big. Ranita found a passion in interior design, a skill she honed through hands-on practice and watching endless tutorials. She would transform a space in ways that made people gasp with delight. Those who knew her personally often described how her talent brought new life to old rooms. Social media became her gallery. She posted photos of small projects, carefully curated before and after shots, and gave tips to friends and followers about color schemes and layouts. Over time, her social media presence grew. Clients from nearby neighborhoods began to reach out, and her reputation spread by word of mouth. Every success was a testament to her resilience. She wanted to provide her kids with the stability that she herself hadn't always experienced. Ranita balanced her work with caring for her children, often putting their needs ahead of everything else. In Shreveport, resources and safe recreational outlets for children can be limited, so Ranita took on the challenge of creating her own nurturing environment at home. Family and friends recall how her living room often looked like a mini classroom, complete with educational charts and colorful art supplies to keep the kids engaged. Through it all, one detail stood out. Despite her demanding schedule, Ranita never lost sight of her dreams. She was determined to succeed, provide for her kids, and make them proud. Little did she know that her growing online presence would soon put her in the crosshairs of a tragic situation that would become the talk of the city. Jonathan Robinson, 37 years old at the time of the murder, was born and raised in the same area as Ranita. However, his path diverged drastically from hers. While Ranita chased her passion for interior design and family life, Jonathan's world was marked by a series of violent incidents and criminal records. From an early age, Jonathan had brushes with the law. Family members and acquaintances described his upbringing as chaotic. He was exposed to gang culture and found himself caught in cycles of domestic and street violence, drug offenses, and multiple arrests. His rap sheet wasn't just a brief list of petty crimes. It included serious charges like aggravated assault, attempted murder, and repeated domestic violence incidents. Despite serving time behind bars on more than one occasion, Jonathan never fully left his life of crime. Some say he thrived on intimidation and control. Others argue he lacked adequate support or rehabilitation. By his mid-30s, he was a ticking time bomb, hardened by the system and harboring deep-seated anger issues. When Jonathan met Renita, many in her circle were surprised. On the surface, he appeared to be turning his life around. At least that's what Renita believed. He showered her with attention, took her kids out for ice cream, attended school meetings, and fixed broken items around the house. He seemed, for a brief window, like the supportive partner she had always yearned for. Friends later admitted they saw red flags. Jonathan's temper flared over small disagreements. He possessed a jealousy that bordered on obsession. Still, Renita believed in second chances. Maybe Jonathan would break free of his past. Maybe all he needed was the stability of a loving family. That hope would ultimately cost her everything. Not long after the relationship with Jonathan began, Renita learned she wasn't the only woman in his life. Jonathan had been involved with Sharika Taylor for years, a relationship that never truly ended. Sharika considered herself Jonathan's main partner, and when she found out about Renita, online insults and accusations flooded social media. In the digital age, private disputes often spill onto social media. With Renita and Sharika, that tension played out in public. Sharika posted an angry status, calling Renita a homewrecker and accusing her of chasing a taken man. Renita fired back, insisting she wanted nothing more to do with Jonathan, who still tried to contact her even after they'd broken up. These posts weren't just petty rants. They carried real emotional weight, especially given Jonathan's tendency toward violence. Whenever Sharika or Renita went live, they aired grievances that inflamed Jonathan's jealousy. Each post was ammunition, fueling a volatile situation that neither woman could fully control. Frustrated by Jonathan's dual life, Renita eventually said she'd had enough. She took to Facebook, declaring her independence. She wanted a relationship with a partner who would put her first, and Jonathan was far from that. For a time, it seemed like she would focus on her children, her career, and regaining her sense of peace. But Jonathan wasn't one to let go. He kept calling, sending messages, and showing up unannounced. At moments, he pleaded for forgiveness. At others, he lashed out in angry tirades. In a decision that some found baffling, Renita gave him another chance, only to break it off again when she realized nothing had changed. With each breakup, Jonathan's rage intensified, especially when rumors surfaced that Renita was seeing someone new. Caught in the center of this storm was Sharika, who seemed equally entangled in Jonathan's manipulation. In her mind, Renita was the intruder. In Renita's mind, Sharika was a constant source of harassment and a reminder of Jonathan's endless lies. Both women were pinned against each other while Jonathan fanned the flames, moving between them and stoking rivalry. The final spark came in early 2018 when Renita went live on Facebook, refuting Sharika's claims that she was the one trying to win Jonathan back. The truth, according to Renita, was that Jonathan wouldn't leave her alone. That live video and subsequent posts ramped up tensions to a breaking point. In the days leading up to the murder, Jonathan's demeanor grew increasingly unstable. Witnesses said he drove from Houston to Shreveport with a singular purpose: to confront Renita about her Facebook posts. He claimed she had embarrassed him and Sharika publicly. For a man whose pride was deeply intertwined with control, Renita's public airing of private matters was the ultimate slight. Renita was living with her mother, Anita, and her brother. On April 12th, Jonathan showed up unannounced. The atmosphere inside the house shifted from calm to terror in an instant. He demanded to see Renita, insisted she go live and apologize to Sharika and the online community for her lies. Renita initially refused. She was done being manipulated. But Jonathan had come armed with a gun. The moment he brandished it, the standoff turned deadly. Tension soared when her mother and brother tried to intervene. Jonathan fired warning shots, and in the scramble, Renita's mother managed to flee outside, grabbing a phone to call 911. The call was frantic. Renita's mother shouted that Jonathan was shooting inside the house and that her daughter was still trapped. Emergency operators tried to keep her calm, but the panic was evident. Officers rushed to the scene, but they had no idea how quickly things were spiraling inside that home. With a gun pointed at her, Renita's hands shook as she opened her brother's Facebook account. Her own profile was temporarily blocked, so Jonathan forced her to use another account to go live. Her voice cracked under fear. Jonathan stood behind her, taunting, telling her to pull up anyone who doubted he was serious. The broadcast was brief but unforgettable. Viewers saw Renita stammer out an apology, blaming herself for the online feud. She admitted she was wrong for talking about Jonathan and Sharika. Fear colored every word. Seconds later, Jonathan's voice rose, cursing. A gunshot thundered through the feed. The live abruptly ended. Shreveport police arrived at 1301 Natalie Street within minutes, but by then, Renita was already gravely injured, or worse. Jonathan heard sirens and quickly turned his rage on the officers outside. What happened next was an 80-minute standoff, capturing the attention of the entire neighborhood. As soon as the first officer approached the house, Jonathan unleashed gunfire. Bodycam footage later revealed how the officer scrambled for cover behind a patrol car, radioing for backup. Bullets whizzed overhead. Within seconds, more officers arrived, forming a perimeter and attempting to evacuate nearby residents. With Jonathan holed up in the house, SWAT teams and negotiators were called in. They tried to de-escalate the situation. According to police logs, Jonathan shouted obscenities and threatened to kill any cop who tried to storm the home. Shots were fired intermittently, forcing officers to keep their distance. Sharika was brought to the scene. Perhaps, they thought, she could calm him down. For a tense stretch, negotiators pleaded with Jonathan through phone calls and a loudspeaker, urging him to release any hostages and surrender. The entire neighborhood felt like a war zone. Roads were blocked off, and terrified residents peeked from windows. Eventually, Sharika's voice seemed to reach Jonathan. Whether from exhaustion, fear, or lingering feelings, he emerged and laid down his weapon. SWAT officers quickly moved in, handcuffing him. Inside the house, they found Renita's lifeless body. The scene was devastating, a stark contrast to the warm, hopeful home she'd once tried to build for her kids. News of Renita's murder spread fast. Local reporters swarmed the scene. Friends and family flooded social media with messages of grief, disbelief, and outrage. The Facebook Live footage had been seen by many, and rumors about what truly happened ricocheted around the internet. The most difficult fact to swallow was how quickly things had escalated from a public spat to a fatal confrontation. People who had watched the live were traumatized by witnessing an actual murder on their screens. Some initially thought it was a sick prank until the local news confirmed it was real. Many asked how a mother of three, simply venting about personal drama online, could end up gunned down for it. Domestic violence activists stepped forward, urging the community to recognize the warning signs, controlling behavior, public humiliation, and a history of aggression. They argued that this tragedy highlighted how domestic violence can escalate when emotional manipulation meets easy access to firearms. Renita's children lost their mother. Her own mother, Anita, was inconsolable. The guilt of fleeing while Renita was held hostage weighed heavily on her, though everyone insisted she had no other choice. She tearfully told reporters that she prayed the police would make it in time, but Jonathan fired so fast that it was impossible to save her daughter. Many in the community offered the family financial support for funeral expenses. Vigils were held where locals lit candles and shared stories of Renita's kindness, her interior design projects, and her dreams for a better future. Following his arrest, Jonathan was taken in for interrogation. What he revealed shook even hardcore detectives. Not only did he admit to killing Renita, he confessed he had planned it well in advance. Jonathan described how he woke up on April 12th determined to end Renita's life. He told investigators he was fed up with her disrespect online, referencing the live videos and posts. He retrieved a gun from his aunt's house and purchased 40 bullets that same day. His plan wasn't just murder. He also anticipated a shootout with police, hoping they would kill him. Conflicting emotions surfaced during the interrogation. Some accounts suggest Jonathan swung between anger and sorrow. He expressed a twisted regret that things had come to this, but also placed blame on Renita for fueling public drama. It was as if he thought her Facebook posts justified his actions. Detectives described his demeanor as unpredictable. One moment, he appeared ashamed of his actions. The next, he bragged about not caring what happened to him. This volatility matched the pattern of behavior Renita faced in their tumultuous relationship. Jonathan faced charges of first-degree murder, multiple counts of attempted first-degree murder for shooting at Renita's family and the responding officers, and other related offenses. In Louisiana, a first-degree murder conviction can carry the death penalty. As his case moved through the judicial process, many wondered whether he would receive the ultimate punishment. The wheels of justice turned swiftly, given the overwhelming evidence. Not only was there a Facebook Live recording, but Jonathan's own statements made it clear that he had planned the crime. Initially, the prosecution sought the death penalty. The violence of the act, coupled with Jonathan's extensive criminal record, made him a prime candidate for capital punishment. Public opinion largely supported the idea. Many believed Renita's murder was so blatant and cold-blooded that anything less would be inadequate. In a move to avoid death row, Jonathan pleaded guilty on July 24, 2019. By accepting the plea deal, he received life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. This meant he would remain behind bars for the rest of his days, never again walking free in society. Courtroom accounts say Renita's mother and other relatives were present. Jonathan tried to address them directly, offering a hollow apology. Emotions ran high. Some family members refused to even look at him, distraught and furious at the irreparable damage he caused. Others broke down, sobbing at the memory of Renita's final moments, still raw and painful. Outside the courthouse, reporters interviewed local residents. Some felt justice was served. Life in prison, no parole, was enough. Others believed the death penalty would have been more appropriate given the cruelty of the crime. Renita's mother eventually said she didn't believe taking another life would bring her daughter back, emphasizing that no punishment would truly mend her broken family. Renita's funeral took place on April 21, 2018, at the Princeton-Bossier Parish in Louisiana. Mourners packed the service, a testament to how many lives she touched. Photographs of Renita with her children lined the church walls. The air hung heavy with sorrow. Close friends described Renita as a creative soul who was always ready to help anyone redecorate a space or organize a party. Others praised her for maintaining a cheerful spirit, even when money was tight or when she faced personal struggles. Through stories and tears, they honored a mother whose greatest joy was seeing her children laugh. Pastors and community leaders used the platform to shine a spotlight on domestic violence. They called for women and men in abusive relationships to seek help before things escalated. One speaker urged the congregation, "If someone shows you who they are through threats or violence, believe them and protect yourself." Renita's story became a rallying cry. Local nonprofits organized workshops aimed at educating teens and young adults on recognizing early signs of emotional abuse and controlling behavior. They pointed to the online bullying and social media feuds between Renita and Sharika as warning signs that go beyond simple drama. The hardest part for many was realizing that Renita's 3 children would grow up without their mother. Family members pledged to step in and help raise them. They recounted how excited Renita was when each child was born, how she meticulously documented each milestone, from first words to first days of school. No, those kids would only have photographs and stories. Amid all the focus on Jonathan and Renita, Sharika's role remained a point of intense debate. Some blamed her social media taunts for fueling Jonathan's rage. Others argued she was also a victim of Jonathan's manipulations. Sharika initially posted triumphant messages online after Renita's death, which were later deleted. Whether those posts were from denial, ignorance, or misguided relief remains unknown. What is certain is that she testified in some capacity during the investigation, assisting negotiators who believed only she could talk Jonathan down. Sharika quickly became a target for online trolls who questioned whether she orchestrated the feud behind the scenes. She reportedly received threats from strangers blaming her for Renita's murder. Some felt she should be charged as an accomplice, though there was no legal basis for such a charge. Sharika insisted she never wanted Renita dead and claimed Jonathan's actions caught her off guard. Sharika's current whereabouts and status remain mostly private, as she stepped away from social media following the backlash. Rumors occasionally pop up in local forums, but few verified details exist. The last known statement from her was a short apology to Renita's family, though many found it too little, too late. Renita's death rattled people because it wasn't just another tragic incident. It was a crisis that played out in real time on social media. The notion that personal arguments or love triangles can lead to a public execution underscores a painful truth. Domestic violence often escalates silently until it erupts in catastrophic ways. Experts note a pattern in Jonathan's behavior: controlling tendencies, online harassment, emotional manipulation, and eventually physical violence. Each step was a signal that trouble was brewing. In domestic violence cases, the presence of a firearm drastically increases the likelihood of homicide. This story is a devastating example. With Facebook Lives, Instagram stories, and viral posts, private feuds become public battles, often egged on by spectators. Renita was humiliated in front of the world, and Jonathan felt equally disrespected, which fueled his desire for revenge. In communities where saving face is paramount, public shaming can push an abuser to extreme acts. The tragedy is that social media can also be a powerful tool for seeking help, if used to reach out to authorities or alert friends. But in Renita's situation, it was turned against her. Instead of the platform protecting her, it became the stage for her final moments. In the months following Renita's death, Shreveport residents wrestled with collective trauma. Some pointed to the need for stricter gun control. Others demanded more robust intervention programs for abusers. Local churches organized group therapy sessions where attendees shared their own stories of domestic turmoil. Nonprofits and community organizations started holding regular workshops on domestic violence awareness. They taught attendees how to recognize toxic relationships, set personal boundaries, and safely leave abusive partners. They emphasized that leaving can be the most dangerous step, a fact illustrated by Renita's murder. Shreveport police faced criticism for not preventing the situation sooner, but realistically, no one filed the necessary protective orders, and domestic disputes rarely come with easy solutions. Still, local law enforcement introduced more targeted training on handling domestic calls and identifying high-risk scenarios. They collaborated with shelters and counseling services to offer immediate assistance if warning signs were detected. Despite the heartbreak, some silver linings emerged. More women in Shreveport came forward, sharing their own experiences with violent partners. In these confessions lay a simple message. If Renita's story could spur one person to leave an abusive relationship or contact authorities, her death wouldn't be in vain. With Jonathan serving a life sentence without parole, he will remain in prison until his dying day. Some question whether the legal system should provide counseling or interventions to someone who displayed such an extreme capacity for violence. Others believe resources should focus on survivors and families, not perpetrators. Jonathan's day-to-day existence in prison is a stark contrast to the chaotic freedom he once had. Reports suggest he shows little remorse, though official statements from corrections staff are private. Some inmates find religion or reflection after incarceration, but there is no confirmation that Jonathan has changed. Meanwhile, domestic violence coalitions use Jonathan's case to stress the importance of early intervention. They argue that a man with such a history of violence should never have had the opportunity to own or access firearms. This case reignited local debates about the death penalty. Some believe that if any crime deserves such punishment, it's the premeditated killing of a mother in front of a live audience. Others argue that life without parole is harsher, forcing Jonathan to confront the consequences of his actions daily. Renita's family themselves appeared divided. Her mother found some comfort in the knowledge that 2 deaths wouldn't ease her grief, while others felt a certain finality might have helped them heal. Years have passed since Renita's death, and her community still remembers her name. Neighborhood corners where she once played with her kids carry memories of laughter. People sometimes whisper about the day Shreveport fell into a state of shock over a Facebook Live murder. The video footage is no longer widely shared, out of respect for her family, but it remains etched in the minds of those who saw it. Local organizations hold annual events to promote domestic violence awareness. Renita's story is often cited as an example of how quickly an online feud can turn deadly when abusers refuse to relinquish control. Billboards reminding people to speak up, reach out, highways around the city, with phone numbers to hotlines. Renita's children grow older each year. They're cared for by relatives who aim to keep her memory alive, sharing stories about her design projects and the love she poured into every family gathering. Her mother, Anita, remains active in speaking engagements, telling others that if they see troubling signs, they must not ignore them. Conversations persist about how to handle domestic violence cases before tragedy strikes. Shreveport has expanded its crisis intervention training, working with nonprofits to identify high-risk abusers. While there's hope these initiatives might save future lives, for Renita's family, such efforts come too late. Renita Williams's death wasn't a random act. It was the final link in a chain of escalating abuse, fueled by jealousy, pride, and a volatile mix of social media conflicts. The moment Jonathan forced Renita to apologize online at gunpoint was already horrifying. Her subsequent murder turned it into a tragedy that continues to resonate. The heartbreak is felt by her family, her children, and a community left grappling with the question, could this have been prevented if red flags were taken seriously sooner? It serves as a dire warning for anyone who downplays emotional or verbal abuse as just drama. In the modern world, where every disagreement can be amplified through the internet, tragedies like Renita's become all too real, all too fast. We've walked through Renita's story, a hardworking mother trapped in a deadly love triangle, forced into a final Facebook Live broadcast that ended with a single gunshot. Jonathan Robinson sits behind bars for life, offering no real solace to the grieving. Sherika Taylor remains an enigma, scorned by many, yet claiming she also fell under Jonathan's manipulations. So here's my question for you. Do you think Jonathan's life sentence without parole truly delivers justice for Renita, or does this crime warrant the death penalty? Share your thoughts below. Your perspectives could shed light on how society should address such violent acts before more lives are cut short.